Very good evening to you. I'm Lisa Broom with the CBC Evening News. In our top story tonight, fresh off concerns over the general behavior of some PSV drivers and conductors, the Transport Authority is calling on owners to play their part in bringing order to that sector. The authority and its new board met with owners during a meeting last evening at the Lloyd Erskine Sandiford Centre, as we hear from Kishmar Singis.
After reading out a list of complaints, the Transport Authority appealed to owners to break the cycle of bad behavior. Chairman Ian Eswick says many are shirking their responsibilities and are not holding drivers and conductors accountable for their actions.
No longer can you turn a blind eye to the playing of loud and filthy music on the vehicles, the blaring of horns, whether standard or retrofitted, the excessive revving of engines in residential areas, in some cases between 5 and 5:30 in the morning, dragging on the Spikesdown and other routes in the middle of the day, causing traffic to be backed up, stopping to pick up passengers other than at a designated bus stop, driving or stopping in the middle of the road in an effort to block another PSV from overtaking, but in the process obstructing private vehicular traffic, drinking alcohol while driving the passengers, speeding.
With the rail opening of the Constitution River Terminal just days away, Mr. Eswick revealed that there will be a zero-tolerance approach to bad behavior. Security will be in place and the Royal Barbados Police Force will maintain a permanent presence. The wearing of uniforms will also be enforced.
Simply put, any vehicle operated by a driver or conductor not wearing the prescribed uniform will not be permitted to load or offload in the CRT. While on the topic of uniforms, I must express my profound disappointment here at the obvious and apparent deliberate attempt by persons who will claim to be champions for progress within the sector to frustrate the introduction of proposed new uniform shirts for drivers and conductors submitted by one of your representative organizations.
The new terminal contains a commuter waiting area with seating and covered access for PSVs. Kishmar Singis, CBC News.
Thanks, Kishmar. Well, in the meantime, Director Alex Linton says the Transport Authority wants to set a new standard and a new way of doing business in that sector.
Both from the regulators to the PSV community, and obviously from the community to the wider public of Barbados. And we need all PSV owners to be in on this endeavor. We cannot do it alone. We are regulators. You are operators. You meet the public. You're the face. And we want that face to obviously reflect the perception of improvement and a new path.
And Police Public Relations Officer Acting Inspector Rodney Innes says the force will maintain its presence in the new terminal at Constitution River.
We do have a police outpost station in the new CRT on the ground floor, outfitted by the Transport Authority. That's due to make the police officers who operate there very comfortable, very much at ease. And they do have provisions for us to maintain law and order, and for those persons who continue to want to do things their own way, we do have facilities to deal with those people. And I know that by your presence here, you are here to see the new dawn, and you are here to help us to do the right things.
In other news now, a St. George resident is unsure of his next move after a Transport Board bus crashed into his house earlier today. Trevor Devonish, who lives at Ellerton, told CBC News late this afternoon that after speaking to a number of officials, he's still unsure about how he will get access to his home tonight.
I came home from hearing on the bus that the bus went into a house in Ellerton at the corner. And when I got there and I got off the bus, I saw it was my house. I saw the bus into the house, everything broken down. And the driver telling me, Roger, I'm sorry. And so far, he kept saying he was sorry. Roger, I'm sorry.
Parliamentary Secretary in the Ministry of Education, Senator Dr. Rommel Springer, says some parents are losing control of their children during their secondary school life. And at the heart of the problem, bad influences and company. Senator Springer, a former teacher, is encouraging parents to lend support and to always be there for their children. He doesn't want to see the line of respect between the child and parent blurred.
And I've seen situations where children come into schools and they're given an instruction by the parent in front of the principal. And the child totally disregards the parent, totally. Leaving the poor parent there ashamed. But that, that's trained behavior, you learn behavior. The only way a child can disrespect a parent is if the parent allows the child to disrespect him or her.
More Barbadians are being advised to capitalize on the Chinese government scholarships. Deputy Chief Education Officer Joy Adamson says the number of applicants interested in the annual awards is quite low. And she's also reminding students of the numerous opportunities available during and after completing their studies.
I am proud when we can have scholars, when we can have Barbadians who can speak Mandarin fluently, who can become translators, who can help businesses find avenues and go out into the world and bring business back to Barbados because they know the culture and they know the business.
Well, Ms. Adamson's remarks came at the launch of the Barbados-China Returned Scholars Association. She says the ministry will try to include Mandarin at more schools.
I am aware that recently the Confucius Institute would have worked with a camp at one of our primary schools, Charles F. Broome Memorial Primary School, and I know that they're doing good work at the St. Stephen's Primary School and at Ellerslie Secondary School. We are working to expand the options available to our primary and secondary schools so that more children, more teachers are exposed. And this, therefore, is an avenue for these scholars to contribute when they return.
In just under a week, thousands of students will be back in school. And as the summer vacation comes to a close, parents and guardians have been busy getting the school essentials. But many shoppers are complaining about the cost of some items.
High prices have been the major talking point for back-to-school shoppers.
Like $35 for a shirt and $40 for a shirt. That's too much money. You should be paying at least $20 or $15 for a shirt. I can't know how old the kid is.
Last year I paid like less than $40 for a pants and a shirt for my son, and this year was more.
Like how much more?
Like $5 more.
Some of the prices are ridiculous. It have parents that don't work.
But many uniform suppliers explain prices have not increased for 2018.
Our prices have not risen. We kept our prices for the last 2 years. Many people talk about the fact that, the NSRL tax, now that it has been removed, prices should really drop. But surely, there are other taxes that have taken place, that have been put in place, which sort of, magnifies the fact that you cannot really reduce prices due to all of these increased taxes.
We try to keep our prices down for our customers, but the trend is like the white shirts for the girls and the khaki for the boys, where we had a special running for the month of August. Buy 4 and get the 5th one free.
The new school term is set to begin on Monday, September 10th. Rianne Phillips, CBC News.
Well, Albert Weatherhead has not only represented Barbados in swimming and water polo, but he was also part of the only West Indian water polo team to make it to the Pan American Games in 1959. Well, now he's added another achievement to his long list of accolades by becoming this country's newest centenarian. According to Dr. Louis Weatherhead, his father is also the oldest surviving Barbadian-Canadian serviceman.
The need in the Second War to enlist and join the medical corps in Canada and the Canadian Army. There's a long history of Barbadians joining the Canadian Army in various wars, first and second, but he actually joined along with 3 of his brothers. He was the only one that actually went overseas and served in the European Theatre landing on the second wave on D-Day.
Dr. Weatherhead, who's been inducted twice into the Barbados Sports Hall of Fame, has 3 children, 6 grandchildren. His son says he remained active up until a few years ago.
95th birthday, he went on a cruise. He was actually walking around in Russia on a riverboat cruise, stepping and seeing everything. So, you know, he's actually had a very 95 years old, and he was still driving and going to swim every day. He still swam and trained and did his swim every single day up until he was 95 years old. Unfortunately, my dad had a stroke when he was 95 and a half, and since then he's been more confined to wheelchairs and chairs and not really able to move as much. And there are days that are brighter than others, but you know, he's still here and he recognizes and smiles. And it's nice to come and make contact and see him here.
Happy birthday to you, sir. Well, the head of the local 4-H movement is appealing to people in the community with special skills to share them with members. Chairman Osmond Harewood says this extends especially to former associates who say they owe the movement a great deal. He was addressing the graduation ceremony for the latest batch of 4-Hers who attended the movement's summer camp. Mr. Harewood says there are 25 modules in different areas under the program, but the graduates only completed 9.
Every now and then I come in contact with adults 4-Hers and they're telling me what 4-H have done to them. But I don't want to hear that. I want to know what you're going to do for 4-H. And I want you parents who know other persons who are involved to come out and bring their skills. Mr. Boxell, the past 4-H have been doing quite a bit of it. And we want to encourage that. That's the only way we're going to extend that knowledge transfer and develop 4-H is through that understanding.
With some crop-over costumes passing the $3,000 mark this year, a veteran band leader says it's unlikely there will be a drop in prices anytime soon. Anthony Lane, who leads Contact Band, was speaking during the launch of an initiative to attract more people to the annual festival. Sharika Griffith tells us more.
This year, if you wanted to jump for Kadooment, you had to fork out between $400 to just over $3,000 to do so. These prices have led to complaints about the rising cost of costumes, which have not gone unnoticed by Contact Band leader Anthony Lane. However, he says the fact of the matter is, Barbados does not exist within a vacuum.
We don't produce feathers, stones, gems, not even the fabric in terms of the spandex. All of these things are produced outside of Barbados. So the prices continue to climb. So it's going to be very difficult.
Mr. Lane says Contact has partnered with a Hollywood-based band called Ecstasy Mass. Come next year, Contact will be aiming to take between 25 and 30 people on the road for Hollywood Carnival 2019. And why Hollywood, you may ask? Mr. Lane says he's realized that Barbados is not well known in the area.
If you mention Rihanna, the people will say, oh, you mean the country where Rihanna is from. But if you say Barbados, they tell you that they don't know. Right? So in terms of making the trip to Hollywood, I would include San Diego in terms of giving out flyers and so on. Going to Las Americas Mall, which is the mall very close to the border, the Mexican border, and trying to get the word out there. And again, the aim is to get more people to crop over. And by doing that, you will get more people to Barbados, more people to Contact Band.
The all-inclusive package will include airfare, accommodation, transfers, a costume, and event passes. It's valued at approximately $2,850 US. Sharika Griffith, CBC News.
We're hearing that it could be months before the problem of reissuing prepaid food assistance cards is solved. The acting Social Services Director says the process is a tedious one. They've put some measures in place to ensure that clients are assisted, though, until the process is completed.
The reissuing of prepaid cards for food assistance is an ongoing challenge for the Department of Social Services. And while Acting Director Lillian Quant-Forbes declined to say how many persons are affected, she did say the amount of persons affected by the delay is significant.
There has been a delay in that process, and so you would hear the roar from the various centers where people are saying, well, they've gotten used to just going in the supermarket and using their cards. And the cards allow them that dignity as well. versus now we're back to using food coupons. But it is a temporary measure. But my thing is too, if the need is for food, and we have to use the food coupons to meet that need, then that's what we're doing.
There's no telling when the issue will be resolved, as they have to work along with the Bank of the Bahamas, which issues the cards on their behalf. Quan Forbes says it is a rather large task, as they have to go through the process of reassessing all recipients.
The cards would have expired over a period of months, and so we have to go through the mass process of doing reassessments. So we have to make sure, one, our client is still alive, the client's situation has gotten worse, it has gotten better, there is still a need, and so once it is and we're able to do the reassessments on those clients, then we send everything forward for approval, and that is a process in itself.
Minister of Social Services Frankie Campbell said earlier this month he used to advise his team that those who've already been evaluated should receive cards. While the issue of completing that process persists, Quan Forbes said she is thankful for their partners in the community who ensure that those who need support receive it.
The Trinidad and Tobago government says it will give the first option to the Oilfield Workers Trade Union to acquire the refining assets of the state-owned oil company Petrotrin. This as it defended the decision to close down the century-old loss-making enterprise. Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley says his administration decided to accept the recommendations of the Board of Directors to shut down the oil refinery operations, and that resulted in the loss of more than 2,000 jobs. Dr. Rowley says the decision to close the refinery was taken after detailed analysis and deep introspection. He told the nation his government is prepared to give the union the first option to own and operate the refining assets of the company on the most favorable terms. Dr. Rowley says government wants to put the assets in a separate company for opportunity attention. Well, it has been a bloody weekend in Clarendon, Jamaica. The latest incident is a triple murder, and that happened last evening in Sandy Bay. The gun attack at the Iverness Gardens left a teenager and 2 adults dead. 3 others were reportedly shot. Now, Maypen police say about 20 minutes to 8 last night, 6 people were at a shop in the community when armed men opened fire. Police were called and all were taken to hospital, where the 3 were pronounced dead. Over to St. Vincent and the Grenadines now, where the Parliament is to meet on Thursday for the first reading of 3 pieces of legislation. It's part of the effort to establish a medical marijuana industry. Agriculture and Forestry Minister Sabato Caesar will table the Medicinal Cannabis Industry Bill, the Cannabis Cultivation Amnesty Bill, and the Permitted Use of Cannabis for Religious Purpose Bill. It's all coming a few months after the Ralph Gonsalves administration indicated a desire to have such laws passed by March. The main opposition, New Democratic Party, has already said government must ensure any medical marijuana industry benefits the citizens. Well, Canadian investors building a resort there want to offer medical marijuana treatment when the facility becomes operational. Well, up next in the news, a peek into the world of sports. But before we get there, here's a tip from Cooperators General Insurance.
This tip of the day is brought to you by Cooperators General Insurance Company Limited. Insurance the way you want it to be.
After a hurricane, do not use your car unnecessarily, as this should help to conserve gasoline. Cooperators General Insurance, helping you to be prepared this hurricane season.